Backpack Broadcasting continues to bring you the best original sports content, but now you can get more of the content you love. For as little as $3 a month, you can get access to bonus content, including behind-the-scenes footage and interviews from the Sports Walk, Sideline Stories, or the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast. All this exclusive content comes via Patreon. There are tiered levels of patronage, and each Backpack Broadcasting patron receives exclusive perks. Your support helps Backpack Broadcasting create more of the original content that you love. Visit Backpack Broadcasting's Patreon page and become a patron today.
This is Gerard Hector, and you're watching the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast.
Ain't Hard to Tell podcast, episode 54. Dexter Henry, Brian Fonseca here. Brian, how you doing, man?
I'm all right. I'm surviving.
You're surviving.
Yeah.
All right, you're surviving.
It was a very, 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 very eventful weekend we had.
Yeah, it was. It was a very eventful weekend in the sports world. One of the major things we're going to talk about today is a trade that went down with the New York Mets and the Seattle Mariners.
My dad, who is a diehard Met fan of many years, was taking a shower as this was going on, so I knocked on the door and yelled, "Dad, they made the trade." And he was like, "Oh, really?" So that's kind of how that news broke in my household.
That's how the news broke. A mixed reaction from fans about the trade. Some fans are really for this. Some fans kind of don't, like me, kind of don't know how to feel about it. And then some fans like absolutely hate it.
I'm for some elements of it.
You're for some elements of it.
Because I'm, the part that's obviously concerning if you're a Met fan, which we both unapologetically are. I'm really messed up that word there. But, the giving up your farm system, basically, or two of your best prospects in your farm system, one of them who may or may not be MLB ready next year, and Justin Dunn, who was your best pitcher in the minor leagues last year, and then you have Jared Kelenic, who you just drafted 6th overall, and was the first prospect you drafted out of high school since Dominic Smith, which gives reason to believe that it would take him time to get to the majors.
Right.
But he is 19 years old, and he is promising. And then you gave up Gerson Bautista, which, Met fans are not really going to care for. And then Jay Bruce and Swarzak is like, great. You want to get rid of those two, right? So there's like sort of mixed things there. But on the flip side, you do get Robinson Cano, who, contractually has 5 years, $24 million left each year. And that's going to be a lot of money. And, I don't know, like, we'll obviously get more information as to who's going to be giving him the rest of that contract. And then Edwin Diaz, who I love.
Top-notch closer.
I love him because I've already said this. Like, he's 24. He's from Caguas. He's Puerto Rican. I'm Puerto Rican. So, I'm on a mission to become his wingman when he does come to New York City.
That's a bit much. All right. Well,
and we did pick him. Episode 39, I did nominate him. That was the only time we went with two athletes. We went with him and Darryl Strawberry on the artwork. So you know that I'm not phony when I say I'm a fan of Edwin Diaz's work.
You were vying for him then.
Yes.
Well, to talk about this trade, we have a special guest today. She wasn't able to come in studio, but she was fortunate enough to give us some of her time. Good longtime colleague of mine. We go back to covering high school basketball together in the PSAL. Good friend, good colleague, Kristie Ackert, national baseball writer. Does a great job. You can see some of her work in the Daily News. Kristie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm okay. There's a lot's been going on with the Mets, huh?
They've been busy, yeah. They certainly are making some splashes this winter.
Kristie, I just want to say that this is the first time we had somebody call into the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast. The first time we allowed this, so this makes you very, very special as far as our guests are concerned.
Well, I appreciate that. Unfortunately, because they haven't finalized the deal, I have to stay close to my computer. But I do appreciate you making that concession.
Well, we appreciate the time. Like, first of all, we definitely appreciate the time. So, Kristie, I want to kick it off by this. The Mets, if you're a Mets fan, you've been pretty down in the last couple of years. You have not had much hope, right? The hot stove hasn't been hot for the Mets.
It's just been a stove.
It's just been a stove. Did this move shock you? I know we heard a lot about this, the talk in the coming weeks, this trade for Cano and Edwin Diaz. Did this move shock you at all?
It's much more aggressive than past front offices. I like that they're getting Diaz. I mean, I think if you if you're looking at the closers that are available, he's better than probably. He's younger. He's under team control, so it's better than spending a lot of money on a Craig Kimbrell, who I didn't think that was that consistent this year.
Mm-hmm.
I do like Zach Britton, but I think you're going to have to pay for him. I still think you might be able to get a little bit of a discount on him because he's coming off of injury, but I like him. But Diaz is an elite closer under team control for 4 years. I mean, he's not even reached arbitration yet. That's a great get. I like the deal a lot better when they were getting about $50 million back. I think that, we saw what happened at the end of David Wright's contract. We saw what is happening with Yoenis Cespedes' contract. The end of Robinson Cano's contract could be very ugly. So, win these 2 years and it won't matter, but I don't know that they're close enough to win yet.
So that's the thing, right, Kristie? You talked about 2 years there. That's the best we can expect, in this situation to get out of Cano, because that's the way I look at it, too. If they can get two good years out of him, that's good. I guess the other question I have is, do you know what happened in these talks? That it went from $50 million that the Mariners were going to kick in to now it's only $20 million, which has been reported. Why did the Mariners come down off the money, and why does it seem like the Mets went from giving up 2 prospects to 3 prospects?
See, I don't think that's what happened in the talks. I think that's what happened when it gets translated to reporters. I think the Mets wanted, 50, 60 million, and they put it out there that they wanted it, and the Mariners were like, no. So that's kind of how these things happen, and some of the negotiation does get done through the national media. I think that was like an unbelievable. I mean, if he pulled that off, you'd be saying, wow, but, Brodie Van Wagenen's going to kill this job. I think 20 is, it gives them 2 years, really. I mean, for the next 2 years of Jay Bruce's contract, the Mets are kind of in a good place with the contract. I think the 3 prospects they're sending back, you're going to pay that for an elite closer. I mean, I almost look at it as 2 separate deals in a way. So I think, I am of the belief, and I know Mets fans are not, I don't like prospects. Prospects don't win you anything, you know? I mean, all they do is give you hope that 9 times out of 10, it doesn't live up to what they have been hyped up to be. I had an argument with another writer the other day, and he said, are you going to give up 7 years of Nimmo and Conforto? And it's like, no, but I'd give up 7 years of Gavin Caccini and Dom Smith. So, it's hit or miss. I like the idea that they're more willing to trade prospects. I think this organization has way too long overvalued their prospects and held on to them too long.
Would it be fair to say that this move is not just this standalone thing, that we're going to start seeing more aggression from the Mets maybe in the winter meetings and moving forward the rest of this offseason? Because, we've seen reports about them being linked to Corey Kluber and then, possibly trading Noah Syndergaard. So where are they kind of at with all of that? I think,
I talked to someone about the Kluber rumors, and they did talk to the Indians, but they talked to everyone. They're looking at all possibilities. I think you're seeing them being very aggressive, maybe a little more energetic. I think Sandy Alderson had his ways. He knew, he was very comfortable and familiar with what was out there. You're seeing Brodie Van Wagenen trying to get a lay of the land. Okay. Mm-hmm. The Kluber rumors, I don't think there's much there. I've been told they didn't even get to the point where they exchanged names. So
wow. Okay, that makes sense.
That would be something they'd have to go back on. Syndergaard, they were interested in moving Syndergaard this summer. I talked to some teams that were talking to them, and they got the sense that they were planning on moving Syndergaard within the year. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think it's less likely to happen with this move. I mean, this move kind of signals to me that they're trying to win this year.
Right.
They're not. I mean, and they've been talking again and again that they don't want to do a major rebuild. You can't trade away, a 26-year-old for Corey Kluber. I mean, exactly. Syndergaard's cheaper right now, younger. I mean, I do have some concerns about Syndergaard
I do
going
too.
forward,
Yeah.
but I'd like to see him learn to pitch better than throw hard.
Right. That's my main concern with him also, where I feel like DeGrom is more seasoned in that way. Syndergaard, I feel like still is relying too much on topping out at like 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, and let's be fair here. DeGrom is 4 years older than Syndergaard.
Right.
He's a lot more mature. He's a father of 2 kids. And he worked a lot harder to get to where he is.
Yes.
He is a very smart pitcher. I remember sitting with him 2 years ago and asking him about his velocity. He's like, you know what? I just see them hitting home runs with velocity. I'm going to take some of it off and pitch higher up.
Mm.
And, he just thinks that way. Maybe you hope Syndergaard would learn that. The other concern I have with Syndergaard, and I've had teams tell me this about them, they were looking – I had one team that was looking to trade for him this July come to me and ask me about the incident where he refused to get the MRI. And their concern was, how stubborn is he? Will he work with us, or is that going to be a problem? So the Mets – and that person said to me that the Mets seemed a little concerned about that too. So that may be why they're motivated to move him, is they're concerned about him going forward.
So that's Kristie. That's kind of the question I had. You kind of answered it there. They're concerned about him and why they would actually want to trade him, because most Mets fans I talk to, they say, "Hey, we don't want to trade this guy." Kind of what you said before. He's 26. Why would you give up on him at this point? But this concern that the Mets have with him, as far as mentally and stubbornness, is real.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know that the Mets have the same concern. I think they have some concern about how he handled the MRI issue.
Right.
And he didn't look good. I mean, he looked like a stubborn little child, which at times he has looked like that. I think if you are buying into the idea that Brodie Van Wagenen and Jeff Wilpon are selling, it's that you're going to win in 2019 and you can compete, you can't trade Syndergaard. You just, right. Unless you're going to get major league players back.
No, absolutely, which I'm not sure they would get. When I look at the Mets and speak to Mets fans, and it seems like they are true to they seem to be true to their word. The fact that they don't want to rebuild, a long rebuild. They want to try to win immediately, but I think you can understand covering the team, the trepidation that Mets fans have in terms of them spending the money, etc. What else can this team do in this offseason? Still a lot of holes on this team. Still need a catcher. What can this team do in this offseason, or do you think they will do anything else?
Dexter wants Real Muto. Tell them that they're going to get Real Muto.
I do.
Oh, I'm not Santa Claus. I can't deliver Real Muto.
Come on, Kristie.
I'd love to see that too. I don't think that's going to happen. One of the things, talking to people, somebody brought up a good point about moving Jared Kelenic and Justin Dunn. I'm very happy that they're willing to do it. But if you're going to do it, I guess I would have liked to see you have shopped them around a little more. Maybe see if you could have packaged them for a Real Muto. Because quite frankly, I think if you're going to build around this strong starting staff, you need a good catcher. I mean, Plawecki and d'Arnaud, fine backups. You can't go into 2019 platooning them as your number ones. And I have said this since 2015. I think you need an outside catcher to come in with some gravitas and be able to tell a guy like Syndergaard, no, you're not going to throw 100 miles an hour. I want you to throw this pitch here now. I think they need someone that didn't grow up with these guys and, being able to tell them this is what we need to do. Sometimes a catcher has to get into a pitcher's face. And, I think they need one of those desperately.
Do you think Wilson Ramos or somebody like that could be that guy, assuming that, they would go hard after somebody like that in free agency? He's one that I think of, obviously, because, he's veteran.
He concerns me a little bit with his injury history. I like Maldonado.
Okay.
I think he has the gravitas, the veteran, the sense to be able to do it and do it in a good way. I don't think you have to Jacob deGrom. You have to do very little with Jacob.
Right.
Zach, you have to go out once in a while and be like, okay, let it go. Let's get on with it. but not as much anymore because he's grown up quite a bit. But I like a Maldonado. I don't know. See, the big question is, and we don't have an answer even after this trade, are they going to expand their payroll?
Yes.
How much are they going to pay?
Yes.
I mean, we saw how bad the catching position is in the playoffs. Yasmani Grandal is the top free agent out there, right?
Yep.
He got benched during the playoffs.
Yep.
So, this is going to be tough. I'm imagining you're going to pay. I mean, Grandal turned down over $17 million on a qualifying offer, so he's going to get a lot of money. Ramos is going to get a lot. I mean, this is a position that everybody wants to upgrade on, and there's just not a lot of good catchers out there. So, I don't know if they're going to pay. That's not something that's been answered yet.
Yeah, and I think that's the big question for me, Kristie, is will they spend the money? And that's been you hear Brian sign. That's been the question for years, right? With the Mets, will they actually spend the money? You say you don't know. Nobody knows. Has there been? I mean, I'm sure that'll be one of the questions when Cano is introduced, and as you go to the winter meetings, that people will ask the front office. Speaking of the front office, Brodie Van Wagenen, your thoughts on his hire? Because I thought it was very interesting. There was a lot of talk around it. Is this good for the team? Former agent, now stepping in the general manager role. What are your thoughts on that? We've seen this in basketball, but now this is kind of new to baseball. What are your thoughts on how his fit with the Mets as a GM?
Okay, one quick point.
Yes.
The payroll question has been asked again and again and again. It will be asked again. It has not been answered. So.
Great.
That's not a good sign.
In fact, I asked it right before Thanksgiving. But anyways, what did I think? I think that it's an interesting role. I'm not really sure what his role as GM is. Omar Minaya, when they brought Omar Minaya back last year, that was a big move. One, it was a move to show that Fred Wilpon is still very much involved. Omar is quietly behind the scenes making a lot of calls, making a lot of, decisions. People that they're bringing in, Allard Baird, good relationship with Omar Minaya. Terry Collins is now pretty high up in the player development. He's an Omar Minaya guy. I think the one good thing that I have seen from Brodie is he surrounded himself with some good people. Omar's a good guy, well-liked throughout baseball. Allard Baird's very smart. One of those guys that everybody in baseball seems to have good things to say about. He's surrounding himself with people who have done this job and can take parts of it off of his list of agendas, can help him. That's very smart. I think the Mets wanted a face to the front office that would be positive and energetic and young, and I think they're getting that. So I don't really know what Brodie's role is right now. I guess we'll have to see. But so far he has put on a very good, a good front on the Mets, I think, a face or a front.
Both of our faces kind of lit up when you mentioned that Omar Minaya is still involved. Dex, I'm wondering why that's the case with you.
I liked Minaya. Obviously interviewed him a couple times, and I thought he did a decent job.
I met him at LIU Brooklyn this
summer.
summer.
I think he's a good player. I think he, obviously a good job of player development, Kristie. I mean, some of his signings are questionable that we can go back and look at, but I think he did a good job in that. So his hands on certain things isn't a bad thing to me. I don't look at it like, it's negative. Not saying that you were saying that, but I'm sure there's some Mets fans who feel differently, but I think that's a good thing. And I think it's a good thing to hear that Brodie has surrounded himself with good people that you think are good to help him. You need that. You need that kind of support in the front office.
Also better for us Latinos.
Yes.
I just want to put that out there.
You know what the thing about Omar to me is, and when they brought him back last December, I was really happy for Mets fans. I mean, I know not all Mets fans like him, but remember, Omar grew up in Queens.
Yep.
This is his team. This is like this is more to him than just a job. This is like who he is. So I whether Mets fans like him or hate him, he understands you. He's one of you, and he's going to try to do the best he can for you. So I just think it's a good fit.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good fit. I'm going to switch gears for a little bit real quickly before we get to some stuff on the national scene.
Okay.
Just want to talk a little about you. As I've mentioned before, Kristie and I, we go way back. Makes us feel old now. To covering high school basketball here in New York City. Obviously, I've been around the scene for a long time. You too. You look in clubhouses, especially in baseball. You don't see a lot of women still reporting. You're one of the few out there, sadly. How we're in 2018, but you still doing this and being a woman out there and representing for the ladies. How important is that? Is that something you think about every time you step in a clubhouse? You go out to report. Is that still on your mind?
I think it's less and less. I'm aware of it when I see a younger woman come into the clubhouse. I think the one thing about having gone from high school basketball in the city, I was the only woman.
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
And I don't think it was actually a issue more than once or twice, and it's funny because, Kemba Walker, right before I started covering baseball full time, I was doing backup NBA, and I remember one of the PR guys stopped me from going in to talk to Kemba for some reason, and Kemba and his mother being like, no, she comes in. So I think the more I'm around, people just get really used to you. Like the Mets, pretty much, if I wasn't there, they were more interested in it. Like, why weren't you here for 3 days? You become part of the furniture, but you're a different part of the furniture because you stand out a little bit. Would I like to see more women? Yeah, I'd love to. It's covering baseball is a tough job in a lot of ways. It's a grind. It's a long year. I mean, basically you leave home in February and then you're gone for 6 weeks. You come home, you're home for 2 weeks at a time usually, and then you're on the road. And it's not like you get an off season anymore. You've been covering a GM search, then you cover rumors, and it's a grind. So I understand why a lot of women don't stay in it. It would be nice to see more women in it. It'd be nice to see more women have points of view in it. You see some beat writers. You don't see very many women columnists. You see Jessica Mendoza. You don't see that many women on national broadcasts other than that. It would be nice to see more of that. But, we still haven't seen a woman GM. So
good point.
I'd like to see baseball do more to put women in a position to be considered than always bringing out Kim Ng and saying we're being progressive.
Great point. which I'm with you. I would like to see baseball do more. They seem to be a little bit slow in that regard. Going back to you brought up a point about being when we were covering high school basketball here, especially a lot in the city, New York City, that is. What was it like then? Because you were I don't think I ever asked you that, but obviously being part of that group, me, myself, you, Ian Begley, Zach, all these guys that covered it. But you were, for so many games, you were the only woman then. Being younger then, what was that like for you, being the only woman in that group and covering high school basketball, which was extremely male-dominated?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. There were times that guys were, jerks to me, some of the older coaches.
Not surprised.
Yeah. But
is there one example of that you could share with us?
You don't have to give the name, although I probably know who it is, Kristie.
I had a couple older Catholic school coaches, explain to me that they had girls' teams I could cover too.
Wow.
Or I had one, basically try to interview me about what I knew about basketball. They're gone now, and I'm still doing this. So,
I like that. Kristie. I like that shot fired. Nice.
But you know what? The thing that I loved and I miss about covering high school basketball, I love the kids. The guys I covered were so interesting, and never really gave me a hard time about being a woman. And not one kid ever gave me a hard time about being a woman. In fact, I think they were surprised if they saw there was an issue. So, the kids I covered, they were fascinating. When I saw Kimba in the NBA, that was so much fun. I was just like, oh, this is so cool. It's like kind of like, watching a kid grow up. I loved covering high school basketball. I just wish there was more of it to do.
I miss it. I miss it too, and it's not the same as it used to be. I tell Brian that all the time, just how different it is and it's changed, and the opportunities it gave us. So, yeah, those were good times, but it makes me feel old thinking about it.
I mean, because we talked about change in the industry so much, and now that sort of, I guess, path, if you will, from covering high school and then moving up in that way is kind of like dissolved, and now it's just there's a whole bunch of different paths, but all of them are very, very imperfect. Whereas before you had something a little more traditional.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was the best place to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can see sometimes in young reporters that have gone, to pros right away, you can see the difference. You learn. One of the great things about baseball, one of the great things about high school is when you write about somebody, it affects them and you find out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because baseball, you're in the clubhouse every day. You write something and it pisses somebody off, they're going to tell you the next day.
Mm-hmm.
You do it in high schools, their mother or their father is going to tell you the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So you learn to be very responsible and very careful very quickly.
Yeah, and that's definitely a good thing to learn as a journalist. All right, switching gears back to baseball. And on the national scene, this free agency period, and we have the winter meetings coming up, which you will be going to, is very interesting. You got some big names out there, Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, a lot of rumors about where both of those guys will go. Where do you see either of those guys ending up?
Not the Yankees, right?
I don't know why. Everybody keeps saying that Machado's going to end up at the Phillies, and in my heart and in my head, I keep saying to myself, he's going to be in pinstripes.
Oh.
Kristie, you hurt the heart of a lot of Mets fans.
I know. Well, I mean, let's get that out of the way.
Okay.
Oh, here we go.
all know that is very unlikely to happen. I've been told they're not likely to go that way.
Wait, which way?
To the Mets. That's
oh
what
no,
yeah.
but I'm not saying that.
Oh
that's...
no, she's just saying it.
Right. But there are. I have seen, Kristie, to your point, I have seen Met fans calling for Machado to replace Ahmed Rosario, and I'm like, dude, what? He was starting to develop at the end of last year. Why would you disrupt that?
Well, I don't have a problem with that. I really don't, because honestly, I'm all for it. Bring in the guy who can play. I mean, it's great. Again, we're getting back to the Mets fan, and the Mets have a thing about their young players coming up. You know what? Rosario's been okay, but he doesn't look like he's going to be a superstar yet. And this is 2 years in, so I have no problem with that. But it's not going to happen. Let's be real. And the thing that's interesting, like the Phillies are like apparently burning dollar bills out down there in Philly, like waiting to spend money. But wouldn't it make some sense for them to save some money for Mike Trout? But whatever.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah. Or Arenado.
I just can't get past the idea that the Yankees, serendipitously need a shortstop right now. He wants to be a Yankee. I have this feeling he'll end up there. And honestly, I have a feeling Bryce Harper's going to end up back with the Nationals.
Huh.
I've been feeling the same way. It's crazy.
I don't see him going anywhere. And I see the Nationals pulling a deal out. I mean, they always work with Scott Boras. And so I just see him ending up back there.
And so Machado to the Yankees. Wow. That would be... I don't even know how I feel about that.
Is there,
I have no reaction.
in this Machado sweepstakes, if you will, is there, I guess, a dark horse, like, I don't know, maybe like Boston or something? I'm just throwing a random name in there.
I kind of thought the Cubs would be. I don't know why I felt like that, but I'm not sure. The Cubs need to do something. They have not had 2 good years here, so I don't know. The Cubs are in the back of my mind. They're always the dark horse. Ever since the 2015 winter meetings when they came out of nowhere and got Zobrist,
yep.
and made a lot of work for me. So I always see them as the dark horses.
Is there any chance Machado back with the Dodgers, or is that kind of like not going to happen at all?
I don't see that happening. Maybe, but I don't know. I just don't see that. It didn't look like a great fit at the time either. So
yeah,
I would say Yankees or Phillies, and then from there, who knows?
Yeah. Who? No.
Speaking of the Dodgers, another Dodger who Dexter and I very much like.
Yes.
Yasiel Puig, who is on the trading block, I guess that would be fair to say. Is there an update on, where he might end up? We would both like to see him with the Mets, actually. I'm not sure how that works, but
Kristie's laugh tells me no.
Yeah, right.
No, but here, actually, you know what it made me think of is when the Mets played the Dodgers in the 2015 DS.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
I got sent to ask Yoenis Cespedes about Yasiel Puig, and the look on his face and the answer he gave me was like, whoa, okay, something's going on here.
Like how? Wait, like what
like
what
he
was said?
not happy to talk about Yasiel Puig.
Oh.
Like he was like looking at me like I was like,
Why would you even bring that up?
So they're not cool?
Yeah. Apparently, I don't know. I mean, and you can't, I can joke around a little bit with Yoenis. We can talk a little bit. And that one, he wouldn't even, shut me down right away. So that would be a very interesting move.
Damn.
I don't know where Yasiel Puig is going to end up, honestly. That's a tough sell for the Dodgers too, because there's obviously so much talent, but there's baggage. I mean, they haven't done a very good job of hiding their displeasure with him. So other teams are going to look to rake them over the coals to get him. So I don't know. I can't offer you an answer there. I'm not good at speculating or crystal balling here.
So he's going to the Yankees too. Got it.
I don't think so, but okay.
Kristie, what as the time of recording this podcast, what did you think about this deal? The Phillies obviously talked about them spending a lot of money. Deal that came down today where they got Yoenis Segura from the Mariners. What did you think about that?
I think he's a good player, and it makes them better. I mean, it's a good move for them. I expect so much more from them this winter in terms of spending money. I think it's a good fit for them. And, that's the other reason that, the Mets really need to get serious right now. The Phillies are spending money, and they were better than them this year. The Braves are good, and they've already, brought Josh Donaldson in.
Yeah.
The Mets are going to be fighting to finish third in that division if they don't make some significant changes.
Well, that puts a sense of urgency on the Mets too, and obviously you talked about getting a catcher. I believe you said earlier. I just want to circle back to this. No shot at the Mets getting Realmuto. That's
he wants to make sure. He wants to make sure you're clear.
I just want to make sure Kristie's clear on that.
From what I've been told, no. I mean, it's been reported the Marlins don't want to deal him in division.
Damn.
And it's you're gonna have to give up like a Conforto, a Nimmo, and possibly like a Zach Wheeler in that one. That's gonna hurt.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I'd rather just sign Rosa Ramos then.
It's gonna hurt.
Is there a chance that we're at opening day and Travis d'Arnaud is still their starter?
Kristie, don't disappoint me here.
Look at Dexter's face.
It's the Mets. There's always that possibility. I mean, let's I mean, I can only go on past history here.
Right.
There's always that possibility.
Were you shocked at the d'Arnaud tender and
Wilmer
Flores being released?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when they didn't include Jeff McNeil in the Seattle deal, I was a little less surprised about Wilmer. Obviously, I was disappointed because Wilmer is not only a fan favorite, but he is a reporter favorite. Travis, kind of, he's had so many issues. The only reason I figured that they might tender him is because, one, again, the catching market is so bad. And two, even if they tender him a contract, they can still cut him in spring training.
Right.
And they're only have to, I think it's like 600,000 or I don't know I don't know the money on it. It's like with Ruben Tejada. Remember they tendered him a contract and then cut him in spring training. That's kind of it. That is just insurance as far as I can see.
Is there a team you think that'll be, from what we see through the winter meetings, that'll be very aggressive? The Indians have been reporting a lot of stuff as far as dealing and trying to retool their team. Is there a team out there we could watch to see very aggressive this offseason?
I think the Mets are going to be aggressive. Whether they spend or not, I don't know, but they'll be aggressive. The Indians seem aggressive, which is interesting because their division doesn't seem that strong.
Right,
yeah.
The Phillies. I mean, I keep waiting for the Phillies to be aggressive. I keep expecting them. And the Cubs. The Cubs will have to do something. So you might see them make some moves.
All right. Well, we look forward to, if we look ahead to spring training, I know we're going a couple months ahead. Will the Mets be better in 2019 than they were in 2018? Yes or no? What does Kristie Ackert say?
Oh. Well, honestly, Robinson Cano is, the minute he puts that jersey on, is their best hitter. Let's be real. Yoenis Cespedes isn't going to be there.
Right.
Conforto's healthy, so yeah. If their pitching staff is all healthy, yeah. I think, moving on from Jay Bruce probably makes them better. Anthony Swarzak's not there, so
Jason Vargas still is.
I was sitting on that one. Will we see Jason Vargas? Is Jason Vargas going to be back?
Yeah, why wouldn't he be? Who would take that contract right now?
Oh God, is there a baseball team tanking?
Jason Vargas. Yeah, yeah. I look, Kristie, I'll be honest. I don't want to see Jason Vargas anymore. I don't want to see Travis d'Arnaud anymore.
We're taking years off of Dexter's life.
They could just go. I think I speak for a lot of Mets.
What about Vargas in the bullpen?
I don't want to see him at all.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, that was my suggestion last year when he was struggling. So
I saw that from you when you suggested that.
So assuming it's gonna be again DeGrom, Syndergaard, Matz, Wheeler, whatever order. So is Vargas gonna be their fifth starter, or is he gonna have some sort of competition there?
Seth Lugo would like to be a starter. I think they would honestly give him that chance, though they have pretty much settled on him as a reliever. I think they have to give him the respect of letting him at least compete for that spot.
All right, so that could be an opportunity for him.
I think, to be fair to him, because when they did tell him he was going to the bullpen, Mickey promised him he'd have more chances. So I think he might get a chance. I don't think you'll see Gesellman get another chance. There could be some competition for Vargas. I don't see. I mean, you don't have any established left-handers. Why not put him in the bullpen?
No, it's fair. It's fair. I was so disgusted with him last year, but it's fair. It's fair to put him there, and I think I'd rather see him there than starting. At least I could say that. Before we let you get out of here, Kristie, the Yankees, just to switch over to them real quick.
Okay.
Obviously, a lot with them and what they can do this offseason, still trying to move Sonny Gray. Pitching is the need for the Yankees, but there isn't a lot of pitching out there. Do you see them making a move to bolster their rotation at all beyond what they've already done?
Well, I like the Paxton move. I think that's a good one. Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see them make another signing. I honestly like Jay Happ for them. I mean, he may not have had a great outing, in the playoffs. It was one outing. He was pretty good for them.
But he was good down the stretch. He was really good.
He's a very efficient, smart pitcher. He knows what he does. He's good at it. It didn't work that one night in Boston, but whatever. He'll get them there. I think you're going to see them move Sonny Gray pretty soon. And that's, kudos to them for, knowing they have to do it and admitting it and just getting it over with,
Yeah.
You don't see, other teams doing that. Yeah, they need to sign someone. And, I like Jay Happ. That may not be a big splash move, but I think it makes them a solid, team going into next year.
All right. Well, we will see. Who's the favorite right now, would you say, to win the World Series in 2019?
Oh, wow. God, that's so far away.
I know. I hate doing that question sometimes.
But you did it.
But I did it anyway.
You know what? The Red Sox are really good.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's the right answer.
You know, we haven't seen a repeat champion in a while. The Red Sox are hard to beat, and I really like the way Cora handled his staff this year and his bullpen. Wow, you know, I think they're the team to beat.
Yeah, all right. We'll see if
There you
anybody
go.
can dethrone the Red Sox. We'll also see if the Mets will actually spend some money.
Word.
That is one of the big things. Kristie, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Next
Yes.
time, once you're not as busy, we'll get you in studio. You'll come and hang out with us for a little bit, okay?
That sounds like a lot of fun, and I look forward to it. Thanks.
Thanks so much. That's
Yes.
Kristie
Thanks,
Ackert.
Kristie.
You can read her stuff in the Daily News, baseball writer, great stuff. Keep up the great work, Kristie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Sports Walk is back. Watch Season 2 of Backpack Broadcasting's original web series that brings you the opinions of real sports fans. The entire first season and current season are available now on the Sports Walk YouTube channel and Facebook page. Check out the 2017 NYC WebFest official selection and see what other sports fans have to say on the hottest issues in sports today. It's easy. Just take the Sports Walk. This is episode 54
You gotta pick a number.
of the Ain't Hard to Sell podcast. So we have to pick a number
Yeah.
because Bryan would not have it any other way. No, this is what Bryan does.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
This is my segment, if you want to call it that. But
Yes.
for episode 54, as I warned you beforehand, not a great selection, and it's only going to get worse as we get into the 60s or whatever. But football will usually be handy in these cases.
Handy. A lot of linebackers.
So 54, we have Kwame Brown, who who wore that number. Dexter just made a face.
I feel like we've mentioned Kwame Brown through too many numbers already, and that bothers me. So that's
He
all I'm
wore
gonna
this
say.
one for the majority. Like, this was the Wizards' Kwame Brown, where he actually looked pretty good for a couple seasons. And he was good in NBA Street Volume 2 also.
You always have to reference some obscure video game.
I was going to do that during our conversation because Puig wound up with the Braves and Bryce Harper signed with the Orioles, the latter of which I know is not going to happen. Anyway, Horace Grant,
Wait, in what?
MLB The Show,
Oh, okay.
which I'm going to trade in tomorrow because I'm definitely
I was
getting
like,
the
what are you
next one.
talking about? Puig around in some video
Yeah, I'm
game?
definitely getting the next one.
Okay.
Because the Mets obviously made that deal. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten it if they
Horace-
came up with the same
You
roster.
said Horace Grant.
Horace Grant,
That's a 54 I always think of with basketball first.
Jason Maxiell,
Except I sometimes see Charles Smith missing layups in the back of my mind. But that's a whole nother story.
Jason Maxiell,
Nope.
Goose Gossage,
My dad was a big Goose Gossage fan.
Irvin Santana, who follows a lot of people on Twitter, Aroldis Chapman, which could be problematic.
Yes.
So we're not going that route. Okay. Brian Urlacher,
Great linebacker for the Chicago Bears.
Zach Thomas,
Ooh, this is got you're gonna get a lot of great linebackers with 54.
Teddy Bruschi.
Nope.
Yeah.
I'll get to that at some other point. Didn't like some of his comments recently.
Chief Wahoo McDaniel,
Huh.
former professional wrestler.
Yes, I
Yeah.
know. But why is he at 54?
He wore 54 when he was
when he's
actually playing football.
Yes, when he
Yeah.
actually played football.
Yeah.
I thought it had some wrestling reference. That's why
No. I just
Okay.
want to throw out that he was a former professional wrestler.
Okay.
Because you know about that life.
Yes, you
And-
are, sadly.
We also have Victor Hobson
Okay.
and Levante David. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Levante David.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to respect Bryan because Bryan always tries to put in one person to needle me or irk me or poke at me. And that could have been Charles Smith. And you didn't go there.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. Thank you for not going there.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know, I'm a Knicks fan.
Yeah.
Charles Smith. Enough said.
Yeah. I might,
Even though he is a Pitt alum.
I might have a 55 that might bother you.
Okay. All right. I don't even want to know right now.
54.
Listening to this,
I'm see to me I'm kind of like whatever. I mean, I'm cool with Urlacher. I'm cool with Zach Thomas.
there's
I guess.
not a lot of people. There's nobody. I'm like, oh my god, I have to put him
right
there.
Yeah.
I think I'd have to go Urlacher.
Yeah.
That's probably where I go.
That's probably the obvious choice.
I probably would go Horace Grant too, but I'd say Urlacher. I think he's the best 54 out of these guys.
I mean, if you went Horace Grant, I don't mind that.
No, I'm gonna go. You know what? We've given a lot of NBA guys.
Nah, but it's gonna be more football guys. Like when we get to the '80s, it's pretty much gonna be all football guys, all receivers.
That is true. You know what? Let's give it to Horace.
There's
Grant.
not much basketball left. Trust me.
And it ties in with a great hip hop line from "It's All About the Benjamins," trying to stack these Grants like Horace. Horace Grant, it is.
Horace
54.
Grant. All right, Matt, get on that.
There we go. All right, episode number 54. We want to thank our guest, Kristie Ackert, the great writer of Daily News, national baseball writer. You can check her out and all the work that she does. Thank her for coming on to talk some baseball, which we haven't got to do, so that was really good to do. We want to thank you guys. Please continue to support us. Check out Patreon. Become a subscriber for extra content from the podcast. Also, we have a short survey that is in the notes of this podcast. Be sure to fill out that survey. Your information and feedback definitely helps us as we continue to grow. That's it for Brian Fonseca, who's somewhere lost on his phone right now. I'm Dexter Henry. That's it for episode number 54 of the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast. Peace, y'all.
I'm sending Matt the information.
Oh, you have to do that now. Thanks.